Hello, my name is Nishimura, and today we are interviewing Sumi Tanabe, who is one of the ladies of Jodo Shinshu that we would like to talk with. And she's been instrumental in BWA and in the board at San Jose Buddhist Church Betsy. So without no further ado, let's start. Hi Sumi.
Hi Mas.
How are you today?
Fine, thanks.
Good. Could you tell us really quickly in about 5-6 minutes or so, tell us about yourself, where were you born, and where you grew up?
Okay. I was born in Long Beach, California on October 12, 1937, which makes me 86 years old. My father was taking my mother on an emergency just before I was born because I was coming, and he went to the first hospital, and unfortunately it was a hospital known to be unfriendly to Japanese. He didn't know it at the time, and so when I was born, the nurse said, "Another Jap is born." It was racism, and the racism was very prevalent during those days. So what should have been a happy occasion was a very sad occasion for my parents. They took me home, and I was a healthy baby for the most part. And then my older brother George and I were the only children in the family, but we had a cousin who also were with us. And my parents were farmers, and they would leave us lock us up in the house. And so we were the first latchkey children. And they worked so hard on the farm that they didn't come home until late at night. But we kids would run around the house trying to find candies that my mother hid. We always managed to find them. And then something terrible happened, Pearl Harbor. I was 4.5 years old at the time. I didn't know what was happening. I just knew that people were running around scared. So I knew it was something bad. And then the FBI agent came to our house and told my father that he had to plant crops. My father said, "With what? I have no money." The U.S. government confiscated his money in the Yokohama Specie Bank in Los Angeles. And so the FBI just said, "Too bad, you have to plant before you can go." We didn't know where we were going. My father borrowed money from his Japanese friends. It took him 10 years to repay every one of the loans. And soon we were going to a place called Fresno Assembly Center because my father was the firstborn son. He was responsible for his family, his parents, and his younger siblings. So he wanted, wherever we were going, he wanted us to be all together. And so my uncle Norman and my Aunt Dorothy, my grandparents, and us, we boarded a train. First, we stayed at the fairgrounds in the horses' stall, where we had to stuff our own pillows. And I could still remember the stench of the horses' stall. We didn't know where we were going. We ended up in Jerome, Arkansas. And when that camp closed, we ended up in Gila River, Arizona. From the internment camps, we lost everything in Long Beach, so we went to Fowler, a small town south of Fresno, and we tried to regroup ourselves. My father was a farmer, so we were very poor, but we always ate well because he built a chicken coop. We had eggs, and he grew vegetables. From Fowler, growing up, I went to Fresno, from Fresno to San Jose, I got married to Tanabe, and then we had 3 children. 2 of them were born in Riverside, 1 here in San Jose, and back to San Jose where I have been for the last 50 plus years.
Just for clarification, you said you lived in Riverside with Arthur, your husband.
Yes.
What was his occupation?
He was in electronics, and he was working for the U.S. government, the fire behavior lab. They built a facility in Riverside, so all the employees from Berkeley had to go to Riverside. Otherwise, they would be out of a job. We lived in Riverside for 5 years before coming back to San Jose.
So Art got a job in San Jose.
Yes.
Oh, I see. And what did you do as your occupation?
Well, first I was a housewife because I had 3 children, and I was involved in all the activities. And then once my second child started college, I decided I had to go back and finish my degree. So I enrolled in USF, University of San Francisco, and I finally got my BS in Organizational Behavior. I wanted in public administration, but they didn't have enough students for that program. So I finally beat 2 of my children with the BS degree. So I was one of the oldest students in class.
Wow. And where did you work, actually?
So most of my career has been in higher education. So my last job was with West Valley and Mission College. I was one of the staff who helped build that college in Santa Clara, California. And so it was a unique experience because how many people get to build a new community college? And I retired from them in 2002.
Very good. And how large is it now? It's quite large, right?
Yes, we started out with 2,000 students and eventually went over 10,000. But many of the students are part-time students.
That's right. So what was your first memory of being at church?
Well, after the internment camps, we were able to go to Fowler because we lost everything in Long Beach. And then Fowler, the Japanese were having a little difficulty recouping themselves, but they had a hall. My grandmother at the time thought that it was better for us to go to a Methodist church, so she forced us children to go to the Methodist church. But as soon as the Japanese were able to bring things back to normal, they started Sunday school in that hall. And so we transferred back to the Fowler Hall for our Sunday school.
Yeah, I think I've been there. It's where the church is now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How old were you when you realized that your religion was different from your friends?
I think I was about 9 or 10 years old. But just being a different religion wasn't just the only differences. I was different because I was poor. I was different because I was Japanese. I was different because my parents didn't speak good English. I was different because I had a very poor self-image of myself. But there were some positive things too, not just the negative things while I was growing up. My friends would say, "What's a Buddhist?" They would ask me a silly question like, "Why do you believe in idol worshiping? And why don't you believe in our God? You're gonna go to hell, Sumi." I said, "I don't think so." I said, "Just because I don't believe you're in your religion, I'm very, very happy with my religion." So even the differences was a challenge, but I still thought it was a good experience for me to go through those experiences.
Thank you for sharing that. How has being a Buddhist helped you in your life?
Well, one of the greatest lessons I learned was that hate is not overcome by hate. I hated our government for putting us in those internment camps. I hated that we were poor. I hated that I didn't have nice clothes like my friends. I hated a lot of things in those early years. But I was fortunate in that I had a Sunday school teacher named George Teruoka, who was a Nisei farmer, but he spoke English, so we were able to understand. He taught us about general Buddhism and Jodo Shinshu. In fact, all of the Japanese kids around that time would work on his farm during the summer months to earn money. My brothers and I did for just a short time, but it was one way to have some money for the school year. I enjoyed teaching Dharma school with him, and one year he said, "You're going to have to teach by yourself because we don't have enough teachers." I said, "I don't think I'm ready." He said, "Yes, you're ready." So I began teaching upper grades, but because I was learning alongside with George, I was able to do it. It was one of my happiest days.
So you already answered my next question, which was about what led you to becoming a Dharma school teacher. So what are the most memorable things from the time that you were a Dharma school teacher?
There's several things. First, because I was always interested in the homeless population around our city and county, I joined AAUW. It was American Association of University Women. And they had a homeless committee. It was focused on women and children. And so I became very active with this committee. But before then, I was interested in helping our Dharma school kids learn a little bit about the world around them. Teachers teach mainly by lecturing, but I know some students don't learn just by hearing things, but by experiencing things themselves. So I made an appointment to see some people at the nearest shelter. It's called Julian Street Inn near the Buddhist church, and I arranged for our 8th graders to go there. So once a year we will pack a Ziploc bag filled with toiletry and warm socks to give to the homeless men and women there. And after I retired from Dharma school teaching, my assistant continued this until the shelter could no longer have minors. So that was one thing. And then the second thing was I wanted to teach our children about other religions. There's a Islam center on 3rd Street near the Buddhist church. So I arranged for our student to go to that center. And when I arrived there with my student, I raised my hand to shake the imam's hand, and he says, "No," he says, "because you're dirty." And I said, "What? Because you're dirty, I don't shake females' hand." I said, "Oh, okay." And then when we were about to sit on the benches to the service, he said, "No, you can't sit up front with the girls, you have to sit in the back." So my assistant, who was male, got, and the boys got to sit in the front. And afterwards, when I asked the students to write about their experiences at the Islam Center, without an exception, the girl students said, "I like Buddhism better because they don't discriminate against girls." And so it was a nice experience for them. And the third experience teaching Dharma school was taking 6th, 7th, 8th graders to San Francisco. I wanted them to see the relics of Shakyamuni Buddha and his disciple up on top of the San Francisco church. There's this little stupa up there that contains the relics. So we did this trip several times. And then afterwards, we would participate in activities with the San Francisco Dharma School students. This was one of the nice field trips that we did that I remember still to this day.
Yeah, lots of your former students still remember those trips, so they speak fondly of those. Now, in addition to Dharma School, I know that you sang in the San Jose Buddhist Church Getsu Choir for a long time. And I know that you even sang What a Wonderful World at an FDSTL conference. What do you like about singing? And how does it relate to your appreciation of the Buddha Dharma?
I've always enjoyed singing as a child. I think I had an aunt who sang, and another aunt on my mother's side who also sang. She was almost professional. She made records. So I knew I always loved to sing. And in Fresno, when I was growing up, they had a band made up of Kibes, Niseis, and high school students. It was called the Fresno Band. And we would travel to other small towns to perform, and also we would record. I don't have any formal training in music or in singing, but I just enjoy singing. And Fresno had a radio show, and they would play my records on this show. Even 4 years later, someone told me they heard my song on the radio. It's amazing. But singing is one of my pure joys, and singing songs, especially gathas, is like hearing the Dharma. It's Dharma in music. That's why I love singing the gathas.
Yeah. Which of Shinni, Kakushinni, and Lady Kujo do you identify with the most, and why?
Well, I think I identify with Lady Kujo the most. She was not only a poet, a writer, but a great humanitarian. When the Great Kanto earthquake happened, she was right there helping the injured. She developed a fondness for all peoples, especially the poor. She would go to the slum and work to help the poor. And she developed syphilis because she was working in the slum, and she died quite young. And we celebrate her life every year here at the Betsuing. And another way of celebrating her life, the BWA has taken on a community-wide project to help people in need. We have helped the food banks, we have helped homeless people, and we are now finishing helping the San Jose University food pantry. Students there cannot study if their stomach are hungry, and so this university started this food bank, and we are helping them stock up food as well as toiletry for the people who need them. Not anyone can go there. They have to qualify by being a student and have income less than $35,000 a year. But this is one way that we keep the memory of Lady Kujo alive. And I became interested because I was on this homeless committee. And from that, I branched into having the Betsuing develop a hot lunch program for a shelter. First, we did Georgia Travis Center on 10th Street, on 7th Street, I'm sorry, and then again on Junior Street. And to this day, we continue this hot lunch program for the homeless.
is there anything that you would like to tell Dharma School students of today?
Dharma School students today are a little different from the olden days when I first started teaching, but they are well aware of the technology that exists. I would say to the students, I would say to them today that love yourself so that you can love others. Never give up. Think and practice the golden chain of love. Think kind and beautiful thoughts, kind and beautiful words, and do kind and beautiful deeds. If you do those things, then you will live a beautiful life.
That's really beautiful, Sumi. Well, thank you very, very much for agreeing and doing this today.
Thank you,
Thank you
Moss,
very
for this
much.
opportunity.